The mind is like an iceberg, it floats with 1/7 of its bulk above water. Unexpressed emotions will never die. They are buried alive and will come forth later in uglier ways. The first human being who hurled an insult instead of a stone was the founder of civilization. The interpretation of dreams is the royal road to a knowledge of the unconscious activities of the mind. One day, in retrospect, the years of struggle will strike you as the most beautiful. Most people do not really want freedom, because freedom involves responsibility, and most people are frightened of responsibility. The ego is not master in its own house. We are never so defenseless against suffering as when we love. Love and work, work and love. That's all there is. The voice of the intellect is a soft one, but it does not rest until it has gained a hearing. The mind is its own place and in itself can make a heaven of hell, a hell of heaven. Civilization began the first time an angry person cast a word instead of a rock. Out of your vulnerabilities will come your strength. The great question that has never been answered, and which I have not yet been able to answer, despite my 30 years of research into the feminine soul, is what does a woman want? Where ID was, their ego shall be. No one who, like me, conjures up the most evil of those half-tamed demons that inhabit the human breast and seeks to wrestle with them, can expect to come through the struggle unscathed. The madman is a dreamer awake. A person who feels pleasure in producing pain in someone else in a sexual relationship is also capable of enjoying as pleasure any pain which he may himself derive from sexual relations. The goal of all life is death. Religion is an illusion, and it derives its strength from the fact that it falls in with our instinctual desires. The only thing that matters is love. As long as you don't have it, it dominates your thoughts and actions. Neurosis is the inability to tolerate ambiguity. From error to error, one discovers the entire truth. Where love reigns, there is no will to power, and where the will to power is paramount, love is lacking. The mind is not a vessel to be filled, but a fire to be kindled. We are never so defenseless against suffering as when we love. The mind is like a medley of instruments, each one of which gives forth its special sound. It is impossible to escape the impression that people commonly use false standards of measurement, that they seek power, success, and wealth for themselves and admire them in others, and that they underestimate what is of true value in life. We are made to love, and above all, to love ourselves. The more the fruits of knowledge become accessible to men, the more widespread is the decline of religious belief. The mind is like an iceberg, it floats with 1/7 of its bulk above water. What a distressing contrast there is between the radiant intelligence of the child and the feeble mentality of the average adult. One is very crazy when in love. Illusions commend themselves to us because they save us pain and allow us to enjoy pleasure instead. We must therefore accept it without complaint when they sometimes collide with a bit of reality against which they are dashed to pieces. Being entirely honest with oneself is a good exercise. The individual does actually carry on a double existence, one designed to serve his own purposes and another as a link in a chain in which he serves against, or at any rate without, any volition of his own. The mind is not a vessel to be filled, but a fire to be kindled. Human beings are funny. They long to be with the person they love but refuse to admit openly. Some are afraid to show even the slightest sign of affection because of fear. Fear that their feelings may not be recognized, or even worse, returned. But one thing about human beings puzzles me the most is their conscious effort to be connected with the object of their affection, even if it kills them slowly within. When a man is freed of religion, he has a better chance to live a normal and wholesome life. One day, in retrospect, the years of struggle will strike you as the most beautiful. The essence of optimism is that it takes no account of the present, but it is a source of inspiration, of vitality and hope where others have resigned. It enables a man to hold his head high, to claim the future for himself and not to abandon it to his enemy. Men are more moral than they think and far more immoral than they can imagine. The act of birth is the first experience of anxiety, and thus the source and prototype of the affect of anxiety. The only person with whom you have to compare yourself is you in the past. When you are different, you have no competition. The mind is a wonderful servant, but a terrible master. The mind is like an iceberg, it floats with 1/7 of its bulk above water. Dreams are often most profound when they seem the most crazy. I cannot think of any need in childhood as strong as the need for a father's protection. Most people do not really want freedom, because freedom involves responsibility, and most people are frightened of responsibility. We are what we are because we have been what we have been.